I'm joined by a great guest who's actually already out there helping count as many as 3.7 election votes already, but they're in different countries. Let's talk to Mike Summers. He is Programme Director of Smartmatic. This is already a company that helps with electronic voting. Where are you already helping with this?
So we're working on 5 continents around the world. As you said, we have counted 3.7 billion electronic votes. So our customers include, for example, the government of Belgium. We've got customers in Estonia. We've done 3 nationwide elections in the Philippines. We've just done a big project in Armenia for voter registration. So literally anywhere across the globe, any democracy, we're very keen to be operating in.
And the UK isn't operating online. Why?
Very good question. I think you'd have to ask the UK government as exactly why that's not the case. And I think it's a real shame, because if you look at one of the recent kind of technology successes within government, it's been the success of the online voter registration portal.
Yeah.
And just last week, I think it was, or when the registration deadline closed, 622,000 people registered to vote online. So, you know, in one respect, we're doing something to enhance and make the registration process easier, but it seems a criminal shame that we're not kind of closing the loop and actually make voting easier, because the reality is, in the UK, election participation is dropping through the floor, and we can make voting much more accessible by allowing online voting and digital technology.
Talk to us, though, about some of the challenges, some of the concerns, because there are concerns when it comes to fraud, voter fraud, when it comes to privacy, when it comes to cyber attacks, for example. How is your technology ensuring that that wouldn't be a concern if enacted in the UK? Sure.
Well, I think it's important to stress that a lot of the things that you read about in the paper about potential sort of state manipulation of elections and foreign interventions actually have not touched upon voting systems, okay? So, and there's a reason for that, and that's because actually voting technology is particularly hard to hack, because we build in very specific additional security features, including things like end-to-end encryption, that really protect the privacy of the vote from being tampered with.
So like WhatsApp, like Apple?
Exactly, and as you know, NSA are sort of quite concerned about the security of these platforms and tools. So we actually take those tools and we use them to our advantage to strongly protect those votes so they can't be hacked.
Nevertheless, we saw in France, for example, a pulling back from online voting, particularly to do with the legislative elections that are coming up this month, because they were worried about cyber attacks. Why did they do that if you've got such strong encryption? Well,
I think, first of all, it's important to stress that wasn't a system that we deployed, but I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to this kind of general climate of concern around cybersecurity, and it really gave them a chance to look at the existing solution and make sure that it was watertight. But I think if you followed that story through to its conclusion, one of the challenges with that sort of suppression of that online voting experience was that there were thousands of voters who are overseas actually were disenfranchised from being involved in the election process. So without doubt, I'm sure you'll see that being reinstated for the next elections in France.
So if the UK government came a-knocking, whichever it might be, come the end of this week, what would you say that we will not have an issue like we did in the US with the DNC hacking? We will not have an issue with concerns such as France is having. How would you placate their fears?
Well, one of the advantages of technology in elections is that you can actually introduce a really, really important property, and it's called verifiability. So it is a property that allows you to show that everything that you say about the security of your solutions actually is operating correctly. And it supports one of the key fundamental principles of democracy, which is transparency. So we actually have tools in the system that allow somebody to check the state of the vote right the way through, from the casting process through the storage process into the tabulation, to prove that it's not been manipulated. So that's one of the advantages of electronic systems above and beyond any paper-based system.
More voting and maybe more selfies coming when you do vote.
Let's hope so.
Mike Summers, it's been wonderful having you. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see how this election goes, of course, to Emily. That was a Programme Director from Smartmatic, who's already helping other countries get online when it comes to voting registrations and indeed voting online, Emily.